What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of The Jump. And your Connecticut Huskies are your 2024 college basketball national champions. A little deja vu, obviously. Back-to-back champions. What they've done is unimaginable. Like it's crazy what they've been able to do in this era of college basketball with all that they lost. And first ones to do it since Florida in 06-07. So, it's impressive. There's so much that I could say about it. But before I get into that, I'm going to talk Final Four because I haven't done a podcast since, or I haven't talked about college basketball outside of UK since the Final Four. So, Final Four, NC State, Purdue. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them because these games are kind of irrelevant now. NC State, Purdue. Obviously, 11 seed, fighting to be the first 11 seed to ever win a game in the Final Four. Purdue wins 63-50. Nobody could score on NC State except DJ Horn. Zach Edey dominated. And obviously, a year ago, from that point, they had the worst upset in March Madness history. And then they headed to the national championship for the first time since 1969. But shout out to NC State before I go any farther because what they did was unimaginable. It was unthinkable. What they did was historic and will be remembered forever. In 1983, Jim Valvano coined the term survive and advance, and that's exactly what they did. They won 9 straight games and made it to the Final Four. It was an amazing run. It was awesome to see, and shout out NC State. Don't be sad it's over. Be glad it happened. That's always my mindset for these type of runs. For those type teams. So it's awesome what NC State was able to do. Shout out to the Wolfpack there. Then Alabama and UConn. This game delivered. It was exciting going into it, thinking that this was the one team that could do something to this UConn run. Alabama battled, played as good a game as they could have had, and lost by 14. So 86-72 was that final. It was interesting because the very beginning of the game, Alabama just thought, we're going to force Stephon Castle to make shots. That's the only way they're going to beat us. He made them pay because he was hooping. He was hitting everything at the beginning. I think he started out with the first 10 or 12 points or something for UConn. He was balling early. And as I mentioned, Alabama played phenomenal. They were 8 for 11 from 3 in the first half, and Mark Sears hadn't missed a shot, and they were still down 4. That's just this UConn run in a nutshell. Play your best ball and you still lose. It was definitely a game of runs. There was 7-0 run after 7-0 run, 8-0 run, all this stuff. UConn ended up doing their thing, pulling away late and dominating, basically. Alabama shot 48% from 3 and ended up losing by 14. It's so crazy. And Andrew Hurley got in, played in his 11th straight tournament game. So shout out to Andrew Hurley. Now to the national championship, which it is now 35 minutes after the national championship. So this is a rapid reaction. This was so awesome to me because this was it was hyped up by the media and all that, but as a guy that watched college basketball the entire year, watched these two teams a whole lot throughout the year. These were the two best teams the entire year. There's a little sprinkle of Houston in there where people thought maybe they're up there with the big dogs. Maybe it's a big 3. No, it was these two the whole year. And obviously Zach Edey, player of the year. So you have the best player in the country in this game and the two best teams the entire season. It was just can't miss it. Must see TV. It was awesome. Two best teams facing off in the national championship. It's not often that you get this. Not every year are the two best teams playing at the very end, but you got it. And Jake Marsh from Barstool, pardon my take. He had titled this Repeat versus Redemption. So Redemption, obviously, Purdue, 16 seed, beat them in the first round last year, worst upset in March Madness history. Just trying to get the redemption. And then Repeat hadn't happened since 2007. So UConn was trying to be the first to do it. So that was a perfect title for it. Shout out to Jake Marsh for that. But yeah, UConn, Purdue, it delivered in my opinion. The Final Four was 75-60 UConn. Man, Purdue started out so good, and Zach Edey looked like he was not going to allow anything but a win in that game from the way he started, because he was forcing Klingon to foul him. He was hitting everything. He was getting boards. He was playing the best defense he had played the whole tournament run, being an elite rim protector early. But it was not enough. Zach Edey ended up finishing the game with 37 points and 10 rebounds. But it was not enough. UConn just, man, they did their thing. It sounds like simple because you can tell what they do, but it's so impossible to stop. It's all just a ton of screens and cutting, constant action. They just do that and they just wear teams down. And then once it gets to that certain point in the second half, around the 14, 15-minute mark, they just take over the game and it's never close again. And that's what it did. So, as I mentioned earlier, first back-to-back champs since the 06-07 Florida Gators. But this is crazier because, like Duke ran it back in was it 91, 92, or 92, 93? Duke had a back-to-back in the 90s. Obviously, UCLA had many back-to-backs. I'm missing another big one. But, Florida, obviously. So, the thing is, those eras are completely different. The one that you can really look at is the 06-07 Florida. Obviously, it's a different game, but it was more recent. But that team, the 06-07 Florida, they brought back the exact same starting five. UConn lost 5 of their top 8 players from last season and did it. That's what's so crazy to me. It's not even like they were running back the same type of roster. The only one that necessarily played great minutes last year, Quinn played a little bit, but Tristan Newton played a good amount last year, came back. But I mean, they did this with a whole new roster, and that's a credit to Dan Hurley. I think it's obvious. I don't think there's an argument at this point that he's the best coach in the game. This is coaching. Cam Spencer went to Loyola Maryland, then he goes to Rutgers. He's fine. He's good enough to get offered by UConn in the portal, but not like this. Once he got to UConn, he's thriving. What he's been able to do with these transfers and being able to gel these teams together and make them play like this is so impressive. And this was the most dominant tournament run of my lifetime and possibly in the history of college basketball. The biggest differential in college basketball tournament history overall, plus 140 was the overall one. And then the biggest average margin of victory was 23.3, I believe. So it's unreal what they have done. Yeah, 23.3. And the second closest was 20 points. So they beat that by 3 points. Now UConn is 33-1 over the past 2 seasons in non-conference games, and the only loss was a 4-point loss in Allen Fieldhouse against Kansas without Stephon Castle. So, there are no words for how dominant they have been. This past 2 years, really, they haven't played a tournament game within 13 points in the last 2 seasons. So, I don't know what it is. Dan Hurley's a wizard. I don't know what it is. But yeah, he mentioned it in the post game trophy presentation and stuff. He kept saying UConn's ran college basketball the last 30 years. UConn's got 6 national championships in 25 years. What they've done is unreal. And I've seen people start tweeting it, and I didn't really think about it till now, but it's kind of sad that there's a world where there's probably people that were born in the early 90s that are Patriots fans and UConn fans. Their sporting life has to be the greatest thing ever. They can't ask for anything else. So that would be one heck of a life to live. But I mentioned him earlier. Andrew Hurley got in again, played in his 12th straight NCAA tournament game. They're now 43-0 when Andrew Hurley plays, so he might be the secret. Tristan Newton won Most Outstanding Player. I think tonight he had 20 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, something like that. But well-deserved, definitely well-deserved. But it's just crazy because, Caravan has been, their best player in spurts, but he didn't really have to do much. Cam Spencer started the game out hot for him. He was the one that really got him going. Klingon did all he needed to do. Samson Johnson is... You can already tell he's going to terrorize college basketball next year. So, it's crazy. So, UConn, man, just an absolute wagon. They're now 6-0 in the national championship game, too. So, they've only made it 6 times. They've only made it to 7 Final Fours. They lost in 2009 in Detroit. So, that's their only Final Four loss, but 6-0 in the championship game is so crazy. So, and I'll mention it towards the end of this podcast, but the way that Dan Hurley acted after that game, the way he acted is a man that is not leaving Storrs, Connecticut for any other type of job. So, Kentucky fans can take that off the list. It seems that's just my thoughts after seeing that. But yeah, shout out to the UConn Huskies, man. Like they're a wagon, most dominant team in college basketball. They got the best coach in college basketball right now, and I don't see anything slowing them down. So shout out to the Huskies. For the women's Final Four, I didn't get to talk about it much. I didn't even talk much about it in the last podcast, but I'll reference it here. South Carolina, NC State. One little note: third quarter dominance from South Carolina. They ended up winning 78-59. It was close at half, and then South Carolina won the third quarter 29-6. So that was the story of that game. UConn versus Iowa. The numbers haven't came out for the national championship game. So as of right now, as of me filming this, UConn versus Iowa is the most watched women's college basketball game ever. 14.2 million people. Iowa won 71-69. I mean, they had Nika Mule on from UConn. They had Nika Mule on Caitlin Clark the entire game. So shout out to her. I know she's gonna be dog tired, but it worked early. Like she was 0 for 6 in the first half. First time ever not making at least 1 3 in the first half of a tournament game. So she was like cold all first half. She started to let the game come to her. She finished with 21 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. UConn kind of went cold, and that was the story. But the takeaway of the game was the call on Aaliyah Edwards late in the game. A whole lot of people talking about it. Yeah, it was a very controversial call. I can kind of see both ways. I just think it's a call that I tweeted it out when it happened. It's just bold to make that at that time because that is obviously a game-changing play. Like UConn's not guaranteed to score right there, so it didn't completely give a bucket. I don't know. It was a tough call. I would say if you're in the ref's shoes, you don't call that there. But even if you thought it was. But Andrea Carter, after it, she went on Scott Van Pelt and said, "Scott, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but that call sucked." So she was risking her job or a little fine or something, but she was just speaking the truth. So the storyline, though, for Caitlin Clark was so cool. She got to play LSU in the Elite Eight. Obviously, the rivalry there. And then UConn, her favorite team growing up and the team that wouldn't recruit her. And then the undefeated team, that's just a dynasty. So it was super cool. But shout out to Dawn Staley for what she said in the end. Obviously, Caitlin Clark got a whole lot of love throughout the tournament from the media. And people started to hate on her and stuff. But Dawn Staley was saying, she said as she walked off the stage, just shouting out Caitlin Clark, saying that she completely changed the game of basketball and she needs more props for what she's done for the game and stuff. And then even after that, she had said that she's one of the GOATs of the game and all this stuff. So shout out to Dawn Staley for that. Dawn Staley is awesome. So yeah, shout out to her. And yeah, as I mentioned, most watched women's college basketball game ever. Man, it was a fun one. It was a good game. Then to the national championship. South Carolina versus Iowa. It was undefeated South Carolina and the Caitlin Clark-led Iowa Hawkeyes. South Carolina won 87-75. Caitlin, it wasn't even just Caitlin, honestly. Iowa, at the very beginning of the game, just went off. They went up 10-0. It did not look good early for South Carolina, but Caitlin Clark went crazy. What did she end up with in this game? She was just... I want to say she had 41. Something crazy. Oh, okay, no. She had 41. That was the LSU game. She had 30 in this game, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. Played 40 minutes, so she went crazy. But the difference was the story, the entire tournament run. Andrea Carter hinted at it every single game that both of these teams played. One has depth, one does not have depth. Iowa's bench scored 0 points. South Carolina's bench scored 37 points, and that was the difference. So South Carolina got it done. Caitlin Clark is the first player to ever score 30-plus in multiple national championship games. And so some of these accolades that she's got in her career, most career points in men's or women's Division I history, most points in a single season, most made three-pointers in a single season, most career three-point field goals, second most triple-doubles, third most career assists, 3 times assist leader the last 3 years, only player with 3 scoring titles, only player to lead in points and assists in the same season, and did it twice. She had multiple Division I women's basketball records. It's crazy. It's like, I mean, just three-point wise, she broke the male and female single season. That was jumping like Steph Curry, Fletcher McGee, some other big names. So it's crazy what she was able to do. And I mean, she's already like selling out arenas for games in the WNBA, and she ain't even been drafted yet. So that kind of shows that. But for South Carolina, first undefeated champs since 2016 when UConn did it last. Dawn Staley is 109-3 in the last 3 seasons. It's crazy. She's been absolute dominance out there in South Carolina. So Dawn Staley definitely the best in the game right now, but Gino R.M. is coming because the day after their loss to Iowa, they got the number 1 recruit, and they have like one of the best classes ever coming in. So it'll be interesting, and they'll be bringing back quite a few players. I think they won't have Paige Beckers, but I want to say Aaliyah Edwards will be back, but they'll be fine. Gino will get them balling again. To start to wrap this up a little bit, the Player of the Years have been announced. AP National Player of the Year, shockingly, Zach Edey. First player to win multiple National Player of the Year since Ralph Sampson did it in the early 80s, and then the Naismith Award came out a couple days later. He won that one as well. So, Player of the Year, I'm assuming it'll be unanimous. I don't think all of them have come out yet, but yeah, Zach Edey, what he's done for the game of college basketball is crazy. No, he's unreal, an amazing basketball player. And then the AP National Coach of the Year was Kelvin Sampson, but then the Naismith Coach of the Year was Dan Hurley. So that one was a little different, but those are like the 2 main Coach of the Years. So I think those are the 2 most deserving. But maybe you could give it to Matt Painter or something, but I think that was the 2 that it definitely should have been. So for more John Calipari talk before I leave, the last video I did, it was kind of just me, initial reaction, and just my emotions and stuff. So now that it's been like 24 hours, I've been able to like sit and think about it. This is definitely a win-win for those of y'all that are tuning in for the first time. I am a Kentucky fan. This is a win-win for us as Kentucky fans. It's win-win for Arkansas is winning, John Calipari's winning, Kentucky's winning. It's good for all parties. It began getting toxic in Lexington, and I think another year would have been really bad. So I think it's to the point now that like some people were upset with John Calipari for it, but a lot of people are understanding. And yeah, John Calipari said he felt unwelcomed, and the NIL opportunities that he'll have there, like, he might just be able to bring like NBA players in somehow. Like, he's gonna get an insane amount of people to Arkansas, so that's gonna be great for him. But it got really weird today, though. As I'm filming this, I'm assuming by the time you all are watching this, I'm assuming it'll be officially official because it hasn't came out yet. But this is the day after, so as I'm filming this, it's 2:41 a.m., but it's really Monday night. So earlier, probably about 7 p.m., it was coming out that it was not official. All the stuff people were starting to question. And then articles started coming out that Cal was trying to stay, but then Pete Thamel ended up shutting that down, and he said that it will be confirmed tomorrow. But it got really weird because nothing was coming out at all to make it official. And then WKYT, a local news network in Lexington, saw him walking his dog on the street. Goes up to him and asks him, like, hey, do you have anything to say? You want to say anything to the UK fans? And he was like, no, thank you, I'm good. I don't want to say anything right now. I'm just walking my dog. And then walked off. That was it. Like, it seems really weird that it's going out this way, but I don't know. I mean, Arkansas fans are absolutely thrilled. So, and I haven't talked to one that's not. So, I think it's good for them as well. But, and he'll thrive there. Like, he'll do very, very well there. But it also came out today that he, in February, started looking at the Ohio State job. So he had a foot out the door already. He looked at the Ohio State job, but it was not good timing because apparently Ohio State wanted to get a guy hired by the end of the regular season or something. Or the end of the tournament. Or into something. But it just didn't work out timing-wise. So that was awkward. And then it came out that he looked at the Michigan job and then talked to USC, or like really showed interest in that job. So it's crazy. It's wild. It got to this point, but yeah. So as of right now, as of me filming this, Joey Hart has entered the transfer portal. He was a 3-star freshman. Aaron Bradshaw has entered the transfer portal. Justin Edwards already gone to the draft. Rob hasn't announced, but he's going to the draft. Carter Knox decommitted today. Some news came out about Jaden Quaintance today, and he said that it doesn't matter. He's not necessarily committed to the coach. He's committed to Kentucky, and which he's a 2-year guy because he was supposed to be in this 2025 class. He reclassified. He'll be too young, so he has to stay 2 years in college. So that one's an interesting one. And depending on who we get, he will probably end up staying. I think there's a chance Travis Perry stays, and there's a chance that Reed Shepherd will end up staying. But as for coaches, Nate Oates announced right before the national championship that he is staying with Alabama. I mentioned it in that episode I filmed last night that he had made it clear numerous times in the past that he did not want this pressure of the Kentucky job. He was not a big fan of it. He didn't think it was him. So that's how that went, I think. But as I mentioned early on, it does not feel like Dan Hurley is leaving UConn. So I guess we'll see. I think Dan Hurley is the 1-1. He is the first call tomorrow morning for Mitch Barnhart. I don't think he leaves. Jack Pilgrim of KSR believes that there's a legitimate chance and that he will listen to the call, but I don't have a source, but I just don't think there's a chance he leaves. And then I think as of right now, Billy Donovan would be number 2, the head coach of the Bulls. But the issue that you run into there is that the Bulls are in the play-in tournament right now, and that game is not till April 17th. So it makes it tough. But because if you wait till April 17th, you're pushing it with recruits and transfer portal stuff. So, and then especially if you win that play-in game, then you move on to the playoffs. So then it puts it off even longer. But apparently he's interested in the job. And then I think third is Scott Drew, who has been the name mentioned probably the most because he's good friends with Mitch Barnhart. He's obviously got a good track record. He's a great X's and O's guy. He's a great X's and O guy. I think I'd be fine with it. I think anything worse than that. Like, I think if the calls get past Scott Drew, I will be worried. I will press the panic button. But if I could have it my way, we would get Dan Hurley from UConn and call it a day. That's how it would be for me. But y'all comment below who you think will end up as the head coach of the University of Kentucky, because it's one of the biggest jobs in all of basketball. So we will see how it goes. I do want to say this about UConn. They're officially a blue blood. I have been one of the guys that's been hesitant. I haven't said they're not. I haven't said they are. They're in the blue blood category now. If you have 6, they're tied for third most national championships. They're tied at 6 with North Carolina. So it's UCLA 11, Kentucky 8, North Carolina and UConn both have 6. And I think the blue bloods, not in any particular order, Kentucky, Kansas, Duke, North Carolina, UCLA, UConn. I think that's the ones. I think it's not been over a super long length of time. It's been over 25 years, all their 6 titles, but it's been with 3 different coaches. So there is that little nugget. But yeah, the UConn Huskies, man. One of the greatest stories ever. Most dominant thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And the most dominant run in college basketball history right now. So I think that just about covers everything for the Final Four. So yeah, there will definitely. I said that I was going to be taking a break after the Final Four wrapped up because, I mean, this is taxing trying to get like everything all worked up and then getting videos filmed. I get a busy life, so I was planning on taking a little break, but John Calipari decided to make things interesting. So there will be more videos coming out talking about that and just the different things going around because the coach will probably be hired soon, just with this current world of college basketball and how it is now. So thank you all for tuning in yet again to another episode of The Jump. Comment below who you think will end up being named the head coach at the University of Kentucky. And y'all have a great rest of the week. Enjoy NBA, MLB, whatever you find yourself doing now, or other hobbies, whatever. I don't have any hobbies outside of sports, but y'all do you. So thank you again. Enjoy the rest of the week. Thank you for tuning in, and peace.